Hello and welcome to episode 260 of the Smash Accept podcast. I'm your host, Michael Royer. You can find me on Twitter at DynastyDadFF. Week 2 was crazy. And what I'm seeing a lot right now is I'm seeing people just coming out here talking about, oh, I want to buy Brock Bowers now. Oh, I want to buy, these players once they already hit. And that here at Smash Accept, we're always trying to talk about we're buying low and we're selling high. So the time to buy Brock Bowers is not now. The time to buy Devon Achane is not now. We're going to tell you about guys that you should be buying, and we're going to talk about these buying opportunities, right? Because every league is different. A lot of people aren't paying attention to the settings this time of year. A lot of people aren't paying attention to the strength of schedule the rest of the way. They're just trying to see what's right in front of their face. They want to buy what's hot. They want to do it there. Nobody better to shop that up with than my main man, Snoog. How you doing today, brother?
Doing good, Dad, and I'm excited because I've been making a ton of trades myself recently.
Oh, me too.
And a couple of things that I really want to highlight for those listening is when you took that player, doesn't matter anymore, right? We're in the season. I don't care if you took him in the third round. If you took Kenneth Walker in the third round, Alvin Kamara is better than him, even if he was a sixth round pick. I don't care when you took him. That, and always keep an eye on these buying opportunities because we're trying to buy the elite studs that the box scores don't say they're playing good, but they actually are playing good, but the game script hasn't gone their way. Guys like Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, Travis Etienne, etc. So we're going to jump into these type of guys, these elite dynasty assets that can ascend like Brock Bowers did, like Achane did, because we want to help you guys be before that curve because we were telling you to buy Brock Bowers back in January. We had him as our dynasty tight end one. We were telling you to buy Devon Achane all offseason, especially during the redraft phase. He is now a top 5 redraft running back rest of the way and top 4 dynasty running back. So we're here to help you get ahead of the curve. We're wrong. We're right some more than we're wrong, and that's all that matters.
So that's the important thing, right, is we're talking about the timing of it all. You want to make sure you're buying the right guys. And in the offseason, we were buying Kamar, we were buying Mixon, we were buying Connor, we were buying those kind of guys. And now you look at the value of, Alvin Kamara and Joe Mixon, you were able to buy for a second plus. Now they're first round values because of where we're at in the season. You know what I mean? Like people want those points. They want to get in there. And I think running back is a little bit more difficult for people. Who are some running backs? Like if you had one guy right now, and I know you and I both put our running back thread out on Twitter. I love that we both have this guy involved in those threads because it's a guy that, you can buy low for pennies on the dollar right now because people are worried about scoring points.
Is it Travis Etienne?
I thought we were going Kenneth Walker, but Travis Etienne works as well.
I was going to say.
Both of those guys, I think, are buy low. And they're not buy low just because, like, both of them are supremely talented. They're not cheap buy lows, but they're definitely buy lows compared to the talent.
Yeah, after the top, like, after you got Bijan, like CMC Saquon, Achane, Gibbs, Brees, after, like, JT, after that big six, it's like JT, Etienne, and Walker for me that are like the next three like guys that I consider as the big like 9, throwing Alvin Kamara as like those guys that are going to have value even next year. Like this draft won't affect them. I think Kenneth Walker is the best buy low injured player right now, especially in Dynasty because people are so sick of him with this oblique injury. But when he plays, he's guaranteed 20 points a game. Like he is looked phenomenal in week 1, had 2 touchdowns. One was taken back from him. The Seattle offense is running the ball very poorly since he's left. I think Charbonnet had like 39 rushing yards last week, but he's getting receptions and he's getting touchdown opportunity, and that's where Kenneth Walker is going to boom. So I'm really high on Kenneth Walker, especially in an offense that's a lot better as a passing offense this year with the new coaching regime and then a new coaching regime that believes in Kenneth Walker as the bell cow because we didn't really see Zach Charbonnet at all until quarter 4 when Kenneth Walker was hurt in week 1. So I'm excited. He's going to be a bell cow. He'll come back and he'll be a league winner when he comes back if he's healthy.
And Kenneth Walker is the guy. He's the guy that I'm saying, you know what? I'm selling Jonathan Taylor out of that top 10, and I'm buying Kenneth Walker plus right now because we're going to get him back in 3 to 4 weeks. They're saying Zach Charbonnet filled in as just a crazy volume-driven RB2. And he's fine for that, for the time that Kenneth Walker misses. But Snoog, if you say Kenneth Walker comes back and Zach Charbonnet gets hurt, and Kenneth Walker sees the type of usage that Zach Charbonnet just saw, because the RB3 on this team is Kenny McIntosh. There's not a lot of depth. But if Charbonnet were to go down for, an extended period of time, man, Kenneth Walker would just be able to eat. He's someone that, week 1, 20 carries, over 100 yards. He had that touchdown. He had the one removed. We love what we saw. We saw that this offense really wants to make sure he's heavily involved. So Kenneth Walker is a great buy low right now, both in Dynasty and in redraft. Because in redraft, Snoog, I have a lot of teams where, because I drafted Jordan Mason everywhere, it's like I have Jordan Mason filled into that lineup, who's a top 5 running back right now, where on the bench now I have Aaron Jones, I have Tony Pollard, I have, those type of players where it's like, okay, that guy that has Kenneth Walker, he needs a running back. Now it's time to buy low and offer him 75% of what you would normally get, because in the season, when people don't have that guy in front of them, they don't look at it like you and I do, right? Like I'm playing against, I have 20 teams, 18 of them are either 2-0 or 0-2 on purpose. You know what I mean? Yeah. And the one I'm playing Zoltan this week, and we're both, I'm the 1 seed. He's the 2 seed right now. I lost Debo. I lost all these guys. And I'm like, should I trade for this? Now, sometimes it's not the time to go do that now. Now is the time where it's like, okay, if I go 2-1 in September, it's not as important as when I get my guys back in December. You know what I mean?
I love that you brought this up.
They keep doing it. They're just like, oh, well, I'm going to trade James Conner for, or I'm going to trade. The other day I got Isaiah Pacheco for Jordan Mason. That's something that turns into next year. If I was doing redraft, if I was doing that, I would get a guy that immediate return. You go and you find that guy that has Debo and you offer him someone that's considerably lower in value who's playing well. You know what I mean? You go out there and you throw them Alex Pierce in a second and see what they're interested in. Because so many people, they want to score points and they can't get past redraft mentality into Dynasty. And that's why our listeners and our guys in our Patreon are so much further ahead, because we're giving them those type of advice. I can't tell you how many questions I get where I'm like, whoa, you're selling at 50% cost. Like there's no reason to do that in September.
I love that you're bringing that up, because your situation matters, especially if you, like, there's a lot of Dynasty teams like right now for me where I lost George Kittle, or it's looking like I'm losing him for this week, and it's like, I need a backup tight end, but like, do I even care? Because I'm 4-0, because it's a league median as well, and it's like, do I just kind of see, like, I'm not going to overpay and lose a trade just to get a tight end for a week or two. Like,
right.
At that point,
you get
I
a
don't
Zach
care.
Ertz,
I'll just start
a Parkinson.
I'll start a bum, yeah. But my redraft, both my redrafts, I have Kenneth Walker. One I'm 2-0 and one I'm 0-2. And my 0-2 one, my team's phenomenal. I have the most points against, and I'm 0-2 because friggin' I got Kenneth Walker and T. Higgins on the bench. But I love that you highlighted that, because if your team's really doing well and you get like a small injury, don't overpay, don't like go out of your way to go crazy. If you lose like 5 guys, it's probably time to just rebuild. Like if you had a Cup, a Debo, and all these guys, just rebuild.
And that's the Dynasty maturity, right? And that's why so much I've said, you know what, we break it into quarters. If I'm 0-4, I get to rebuild and have some fun. If I'm 4-0, I get to add in and kick some ass. You know what I mean? Like that's, everyone else is just trying to play in the middle so much. And it's Smash Except we're like top 3, bottom 3s. Forget about that middle. Like you're in that middle, you're losing. You know what I mean? Now, one thing I want to really talk about is league settings. So a lot of guys don't pay attention when they're in PPC. They just look at random rankings. They look at, they go on Fantasy Pros. They go on Dynasty Trade Calculator. Hopefully they go and Smash Except Patreon. It would go in our Discord and see our rankings. But when you have guys in like a PPC league, you got to look at 0.25 PPC right now. Jordan Mason, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall, Saquon Barkley are all up over 45 carries in 2 games. You look at what that is. I mean, Snoop, Jordan Mason, that is an extra 12 points in 2 games. He's putting up 6 extra points per game in an elite offense, and he's getting all the touches. He's at 5.1 yards per carry. I want to talk about Jordan Mason because he's the most questioned guy. I own him in every single league almost, because it was someone that I believed in over Elijah Mitchell. A couple of them, I missed out. I made a couple of trades. But Jordan Mason right now is the most polarizing guy. What we need to really cover is I am buying Jordan Mason as long as it doesn't cost me a first. I will pay a 25 and a 26 second. I will pay a mid and a late 25 second. I will pay a 25 second plus a roster clogger like no, not Zach Moss. He's a little bit better than that. But like a Zeke, like a Gus, like a guy, just get out there. Because I believe in Jordan Mason, the talent, but I also believe that Christian McCaffrey is just so risky right now. Like that calf injury and the Achilles, like this is something where he could come back and his first week back.
Re-injure.
Yeah. Jordan Mason has shown right now this week, I rank 7 players above Jordan Mason, like I posted it. And the only running backs that I have over him this week are Saquon Barkley, Breece Hall, Bijan Robinson. That's it. He's my
Kamara.
I don't have Kamara over him just because now we're talking in like a point per carry league. That's a crazy amount of points. What I really want to emphasize is he's a free agent after this year, and I know next year's class is absolutely loaded with running backs, but let's say Dallas, finishes somewhere pretty high. They end up having like pick 26. Why go sign Jordan Mason? Could you imagine him in that Cowboys offense? He's looked phenomenal. And I think the talent is better than what people are anticipating. If I'm selling, I want a 26 first, period. If you can get a 25, I doubt it. You can maybe add a third. But if I'm selling, it's got to be a first, or it's got to be what you and I have been talking about. A bunch of guys have messaged me. Someone the other day was like, I gave up Pickens and Mason to get Garrett Wilson. And I was like, dude, that's insane. You know what I mean? Like people are like, I'm using Jordan Mason based off your podcast to tear up from Chris Olave, to tear up from Jalen Waddle. He's that sexy, enticing piece that you add to someone that's a sinking ship. I almost swore just complaining about Michael Pittman, but you add Pittman and Mason and you get yourself up to, a wide receiver that you believe in that is much higher up. You know what I mean? And like, I think that's the play for me for Jordan Mason. I want to get your input because I feel like if you're buy now for any second, I'm in. 2 seconds, it seems a little high. A first, absolutely not. But I think there's a good return of investment here, like we see with other players sometimes where it's like, oh, they get an opportunity, they go to the right place, and then like Brash has right here, gives us a thumbs up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I helped draft, I think, four or 5 friends and family drafts for people this offseason, and every single one of them left with Jordan Mason in the draft. Mm-hmm. I left with Jordan Mason in both my redrafts in the draft. I left with Jordan Mason in, I think, 5 or 6 Dynasty shares. I got him off the waivers. Mm-hmm. This is the type of things you got to stay ahead of the curve on. Like, I know it's hard, and we don't like to predict injuries, but there is, as much as people don't like to believe, there is players that are more injury prone than others, especially the running backs that are getting 400 touches a year and they're old. That's usually the type of situation where you want to buy into their handcuff backup running back. Mm-hmm. Listen to the coaches too. Yes, they don't always tell the truth, but they clearly came out and said Jordan Mason has been a dog this year. Like, he is our RB2. At that point is when we should have been buying him. And now you got an RB1 until CMC gets back. And mm-hmm. I'm honestly not trading him. Because what I'm doing is I'm trading one of my higher running backs I have. Like, if I have a Derrick Henry, if I have like one of JT, like, I'm selling those guys, turning them into a stud wide receiver. And mm-hmm. then I'm just playing Jordan Mason and just making sure I have 2, like an Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, just to know I have 2 guaranteed starters if they're healthy for the whole season, just mm-hmm. in case CMC does come back and Mason kind of shies away a little bit. But I'm like using Jordan Mason as a chess piece to upgrade somewhere else where I'd prefer. Jonathan Taylor plus into Nico Collins, Jonathan Taylor into Garrett Wilson with a plus on JT's side. That's the type of move I'm looking at.
What's awesome about it is having him on these rosters, right? And you and I have already said, and this is just so awesome because we did our foundational wide receiver piece last week, and I have rosters where I have Jefferson, Chase, Neighbors, and Harrison, and then it was like, oh man, I'm gonna roll with James Conner and Aaron Jones on my teams, but all of a sudden we get Jordan Mason, you're like, woo! This is like gold, right? This is just what we dream about, where you have a guy where you just throw him into the lineup and he's top 5, and that's why we've always talked about insurance running backs on this show. Your Blake Corums, your Jalen Wrights, your Braylon Allen, who's just been fantastic. And I think if the game script, a lot of guys are asking in the Patreon, what do you do with Braylon Allen? He's a firm hold. Like I said it in August that I think he's a top 5 insurance running back, and I got laughed out the room, but I think he is, man. Like in this Jets offense, and when they're up, they're going to rest Breece and pound it with Braylon Allen. I think Braylon Allen has some flex appeal, but you have those kind of guys. You got your Ty Chandlers. You have your, all these running backs that if they get the opportunity, if they jump in there, they are going to get that potential to smash. Since we're talking about the running backs still, I want to talk real quick about, because we didn't talk about Carson Steele. We didn't talk about Kareem Hunt. We didn't talk about, the potential situation here with Samaje Perine. The Chiefs is that ambiguous situation where, like, what do we have here? And this is one where Jordan Mason, we know what we have. Jordan Mason, we have an elite level RB1 in this offense. What do we have? Carson Steele reminds me a lot of Pacheco Light. Samaje was very efficient last year with 0.91 fantasy points per touch. Kareem Hunt hasn't been in football for a year and a half, but they're saying he looks good. I took the opportunity on waivers to go after all of these guys, but I'm right now selling any and all. Like, again, same kind of thing. If I can get Hunt and give up Hunt in the third for a second, or if I can give up Perine in the third for a second, I'm doing it. Steele's very interesting to me, though. Talk to me about this Chiefs situation. If you have these guys, what you're doing with them, and how to, again, smash the opportunity. Like you see, we talk process over results. Steele is not someone that you and I were like, what? He's an RB1 in this class, but now he's thrust into the lead role with the Chiefs.
Yeah, he was a good producer at UCLA. It just comes down to next man up. If you can get signed, he was another undrafted free agent signed by the Chiefs, and it's just, can you work your way up? Can you practice hard? Can you do the right things to become a player that Andy Reid trusts? And he has. Andy Reid's all about trust. If you can earn his trust, you'll be on the field. Mm-hmm. Kareem Hunt, Samaje Perine, and Steele, it's probably going to be one gross committee, but one of these guys is going to be a touchdown scorer. Mm-hmm. And to me, it feels like it's going to be Carson Steele because he's just an absolute bull in a china closet. I don't think there's a clear-cut best guy here that is giving you 25 points a week.
Yeah.
But I think Steele, especially like if Kareem Hunt just doesn't really ever do anything and it's just kind of like, even though I think Kareem Hunt's going to be better than Perine, I think it's going to be Carson Steele touchdown or bust type thing, and it's just going to be, they're probably going to lean on the pass more.
Yeah.
Maybe rotate the three backs, keep the fresh legs going. Mm-hmm. It's probably not going to be anything appealing like the 49ers is. But Braylon Allen's a guy that could be another Jordan Mason if Brees goes down with injury.
As soon as Steele scores a touchdown and 60 yards this week against the Falcons like he would, just flip. You know what I mean? The interesting part is Pacheco will be back potentially this season. You know what I mean? That's where I was talking about the trade that I did where I was in complete rebuild mode, and I ended up getting Pacheco, Bryce Young, and Hollywood Brown for Jordan Mason and another running wide receiver that was just producing. Oh, no, and Gardner Minshew. So it was like I'm trying to get points off my team, especially because Codester, the Scarface himself, is just a master of shaving points off his team for the 101. The other part I want to talk about with the running backs is receptions and how important that is. You keep hitting on it, and I was reading into it because you nailed it on the, their teams running more cover 2, cover 4, cover 6. They're literally playing those 2 deep safeties, and the running backs are just eating underneath. It's creating soft boxes, but it's also creating more receptions for the running backs. You look at Devon Achane, Breece Hall, 14 receptions in 2 games. Jahmyr Gibbs, 13. Justice Hill, Bijan Robinson, Tony Pollard, 10 receptions in 2 games. Snoog, this is like the new level cheat code, right? Like you were talking about the soft boxes, but I'm starting to look at it. I mean, Pacheco had 8 receptions. Mixon has 8 receptions. Jones, Kamara, Charbonnet, like these guys are eating underneath in these just short dump offs, extra yards, just ultimately more PPR points. That's why Achane, Hall, Gibbs, and Bijan are like a cheat code. Those guys are literally, they're getting the receptions and they're getting the yards. But you got to look at Tony Pollard. You got to look at Pacheco. Or no, Pacheco's out. You got to look at Stevenson, Jones, Mixon, Kamara, Charbonnet. This is what we're looking at for our running backs right now, is that nice 4 reception floor. Because you talked about Charbonnet. He was a borderline RB1 this week with a crap game. Just crap. Yeah. But he had all those dump offs. So, I mean, right now, I'm low-key buying in on Tony Pollard. I'm buying in on guys that are going to get those receptions.
Yeah, definitely. And that's the thing, too, especially in full PPR leagues, is you're looking for pass catchers. You're looking for these guys on elite offenses. Travis Etienne's been a guy that's been operating as the primary pass catcher, despite Tank Bigsby rising a little bit. But Etienne's been getting all the valuable work, right?
Mhm.
He's getting all the goal line, all the receiving work. Same with Breece Hall. Braylon Allen's becoming more and more a thing, but Breece Hall's getting all the pass catching work. He's getting all the goal line work. That's what's key, right? That's a valuable point in this format and all formats for running backs is can they catch the ball and are they going to get a touchdown? Because look at Jonathan Taylor. He could have 140 yards rushing. Phenomenal game, and the dude gets you 14 points.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan Taylor's touchdown or bust, and people don't want to believe that because they think he's
that's why he's a sell.
They think he's this superstar running back, but he is literally as one-dimensional as they come. He's phenomenal at that, but he needs touchdowns to be to be elite. Like, yeah, sure, he'll get you 1,400 rushing yards and 6 touchdowns, and he's not finishing in the top 5. So that's what people don't understand with him is it's just he's not even catching passes. And
yeah.
Honestly, I'm fading. I'd said to fade that entire freaking Colts offense, and I never have felt better about a take in my life.
I got to talk to you about Jonathan Taylor because he's my biggest sell in Dynasty. But I mean, if you were a contending team, James Conner in a mid-first or Jonathan Taylor?
James Conner.
J.K. Dobbins in a first or Jonathan Taylor?
JT.
I'm taking J.K. Dobbins, all right? Like, I want to transition into J.K. Dobbins because, dude, we knew he was talented, right? We knew what we had there. But, Snoog, 2 weeks in a row with 131 plus and a touchdown, averaging 9.8 yards per carry. And now I know they were a little bit softer matchups, but, I mean, there is a buying opportunity. I don't know if you saw the trade that I made the other day, but I gave up my 25 second on a juggernaut and a 26 third for J.K. Dobbins. And I feel like people were mocking me in the room. They're like, Dad, why are you stealing all the players? But like you buy J.K. Dobbins for your late 25 second, and you're not only, you're one, stashing him on your bench or throwing him in the lineup, but 2, you're blocking someone else from cheap running back production because you can't buy Kamara anymore for a second. You can't buy Joe Mixon, but you can buy James Conner. You can buy J.K. Dobbins. You can buy Tony Pollard. You can buy Zach Moss, who has, by the way, the number 1 strength of schedule the rest of the season. You know what I mean? Like, I'm starting to think, okay, the guys I posted today, you can even buy Jordan Mason for that. It's like, I want to use my 25 second and hold on to my 25 first because so many people, and you and I talked about the timing. The timing of that 25 first is not now, but I will trade my 25 second any day of the week. If I could get an elite
100%.
level production running back from Connor, Pollard, or J.K. Dobbins, I'm going to do it. I'm throwing it in there. I'm going for it.
That's a good take. I like that.
Joseph Spanier from Twitter, awesome guy. He said, Puka and J.K. Dobbins or JT and Jaden Reed. This is, for me, I'm smashing Puka and Dobbins. Like, I know before the season started, you'd be like, Dad, that's nuts. But I want Puka over JT by a lot more than what I want Reed and Dobbins. But it's close. It's close. I think maybe you can get a second added on top of that one because Reed should bounce back pretty hard here. You're taking the JT side, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
I'm not a big Puka guy.
I wasn't, but right now we talk about Kupp being injured again. And the only reason Puka's dipped a little bit in value is because of Kupp. If Kupp doesn't play and Kupp goes on IR, which he did not, but like let's say he comes back, re-aggravates it, and Puka becomes the guy again. He's a low key, solid value. There's a lot of guys that are wide receivers right now that like the situation doesn't dictate what their value should be. They're doing things that we should be paying attention to. I know George Pickens and Garrett Wilson were the 2 guys I wanted to talk about because we saw Pickens. Week 1 is against Patrick Surtain. If Patrick Surtain is covering your wide receiver, bench him. Period. He's given up 4 points and 3 points to George Pickens and DK Metcalf. He gets Mike Evans this week. I've moved Mike Evans from top 10 to borderline outside my top 20 wide receivers because Surtain is that good. However, we look at week 2, Snoog. He had 2 touchdowns called back that were, George Pickens, if he gets those 2 touchdowns, we're talking about him in a totally different light. And people don't pay attention to that. They look at the box score, but they don't watch the tape. And when it comes to guys that I love and guys that I'm buying in, I want to dig in further. I don't want to say, ooh, Pickens' stats don't look too good. I want to see what else is happening here.
Yeah, George Pickens is one of our favorite guys. He's been one of my favorite guys from that 2022 class since he was a prospect. I mean, I always thought he was an absolute baller. One thing that he always had a little bit of concern with was his separation skills consistently and his overall route running ability. I've had a chance to watch his all 22 in his past 2 games. That dude is a different animal now. No one can guard him. Surtain was left in the dust in multiple plays where the ball should have went George Pickens' way, and it did, but it was called back. 2 touchdowns from penalties, over 100 yards of penalty yards. He is so friggin' good, and when he starts getting a little bit of those, he's going to get some cupcake matches. One's coming this week against the Chargers. Fields is going to feed him, and that's what he's been. He's been looking George Pickens' way every friggin' play. It's going to click. People have to understand these young quarterbacks these young wideouts getting new quarterbacks, it takes time for things to mesh. Like, you got to get on the same page with things. You have to adjust to each other's play style, especially Garrett Wilson, George Pickens, Drake London, Chris Olave. These guys have had like 5 different quarterbacks throwing them the football in their first 3 seasons. George Pickens, though, Scott Barrett, very smart guy out there, data guy. Same with Jacob Gibbs. Shout out both of those guys. They have been saying George Pickens has been one of the, if not the best separator in terms of data since the season started, and he is looking like one of the best players out there on the field as a wideout. So buy high and buy low on him in all your leagues.
You have to right now. I mean, he gets the Chargers this week, but then he gets the Colts in week 4. What I'm really looking at, Snoog, is after the bye week, he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matchups against bottom 12 wide receiver groups.
List them off. Let me hear.
Washington, Baltimore, Philadelphia. Baltimore's actually given up a ton of points. You know what I mean? And he's just in these opportunities. Then week 17, he's going to get KC, which will probably be a shootout. Week 13, he gets Cincinnati. And those are both considered the 2 that aren't smash plays. So I think George Pickens here, and again, if anybody's playing Washington, you fire him up. Like, Washington is giving up 44.1 fantasy points per game to the wide receiver. Last year, they gave up 36.1. It's like, dude, fire him up. It's Jamar Chase week. It's really tough to start T. Higgins this week just in case he doesn't go. But, like, I love George Pickens. I love the buy there. Guys in the Patreon were buying. One guy messaged me. He's like, hey, I was listening to your podcast, and I gave up Olave and got Pickens in a first. And I almost, I went from 6 to midnight. Like, I was just like, no, that's what you want to do, right? Now, Olave, on the other hand, Snook, I'm low-key buying because it's been real interesting, right? Like, they have 2 blowout games where they're getting tons of interceptions. The offense is, Kamara scores 4 touchdowns in the second game, not allowing anybody to eat. The first game, Shaheed catches the deep ball, tight ends are involved. But I think Olave, who had 40% target share in week 2, has 23.5% target share in 2 weeks. I prefer Chris Olave to Drake London right now. Like, I know London went out there and he had a touchdown and 50 yards. I think you can get Olave plus for London, and I'm doing it. But I think Olave has become a buy where I've seen him traded 6 times in my 20 leagues this week because people are starting to panic. And I even saw a poll on Twitter where people were saying Rashid Shaheed is the new wide receiver 1 in New Orleans. And I'm like, please pay attention to actual talent.
Yeah, people just don't know what they're talking about. Chris Olave is a guy for me that elite route runner, elite underlying metrics in his first 2 seasons, paced 1,200 yards in back-to-back seasons. He is going to another one that is going to explode in this Clint Kubiak offense once he's allowed to. He has had the game script hasn't gone his way, right? Like, they're getting those deep shots with Shaheed. That's not going to always happen. Like, that's
no, it's the opposite of what's happening across the league.
The reason why it's happening is because what they're doing is they're focusing on Olave and Kamara, and it's opening that up downfield. Clint Kubiak's dialing in these deep route concepts. But
it's
don't
smart.
Forget, Chris Olave is going to get a lot of those deep crossers. He's going to work across the middle of the field. He's going to get a lot more underneath. He's a guy that they're using the most motion in the NFL right now. Like, this offense is working. It's thriving. And now they get a young secondary in the Philly secondary next week with a pass rush that's been non-existent, where they can get
it out there, man. They can continue it. I love it.
They can continue it and keep building off what they've established. I think that game has a chance to be a really big shootout as well. The over-under is like 50 in that game. I think Kamara is like minus 230 to score a touchdown. So yeah, I'm excited for that game as well to kind of see how Chris Olave operates, because I think Chris Olave is going to ease into that type of 15 to 18 points per game role, and it's going to be a very high floor. And he's just going to get like 8 to 10 targets, 8 to 10 targets, 8 to 10 targets. It'll come. Just be patient.
So we got a question here from Yo Soy Christopher. For the CMC owner, you doing DJ Moore and Jonathan Brooks or Mason and Olave?
Mason and Olave.
Yeah. I'm looking. So Brooks is a sell for me, and I'm doing this type of trade. I offered it in three different leagues where I actually offered, I think I offered Pittman and Brooks for Garrett Wilson, and I offered Brooks and a first for, I'm trying to move in that way. If I can get, and I think you can, Snoog, because Brooks, people are going to start getting excited of him coming back. Panthers offense gets a little bit of an uptick with Andy Dalton back in there. But like this offense is not sexy. It's not something excitable where I think if you can do this type of trade where it's Brooks and not so much DJ Moore, by the way, there it is. That sexy DJ Moore jersey. All you guys got to do is go on Snoog and I's page, put in that you subscribe to the YouTube page, show us a picture. We're going to give that away October 1st. I'm so excited for that because we have over 100 entries already, Snoog. Like people are like, yo, I want to get that DJ Moore jersey from Pristine Auction. But if I'm doing this type of trade, if I'm doing Brooks and DJ Moore, I think I'm getting Mason and I'm going slightly above Olave. But I think this is a trade that I'm making. Like I think Mason is going to give you crazy production where Jonathan Brooks, we're hoping in week 6 or 8 when he comes back that he's going to give you good production. But that offense could be abysmal to stay in that same area. I'm just not fully invested in there. The other question that came in from H was JT or Ayuk in a third. I think Ayuk gets an uptick here, but I still would need that to be a second to move off Jonathan Taylor from me.
Yeah, definitely.
And our guy from the Discord, and like I'm trying to keep all these different things going on, but he's just said, just got an offer of Rashee Rice for Puka on a rebuilding team. What are you doing here with this? You and I love Rashee Rice. We both moved him up inside our top 12. He is, but is a second close the gap? You're not getting a 1-2 flip.
I still get scared with what's going to happen to Rashee Rice when that.
It's going to be a 6-game suspension in 2025. You could set it and forget it. Hey, why don't you just do it? What if you get you do Rashee Rice and Kenneth Walker and you give up Puka plus one of your running backs. Making that move. I still think Puka's a little bit higher. So
or 1-2 swap. Try a 1-2 swap or a 1-2-2 swap.
And then the other thing that people don't pay attention is you start with that, right? We talk a lot about that 1-2 swap. So when I say that is like we'll give up Rice. We'll get Rice in a first for Puka in a second. And a lot of times people are like, nah, I don't know if I want to do that. You know what they will do though? That 25 to 26 one flop. And a lot of times if you can, that 26 first becomes random, that 25 second becomes late and you win that big time, or even a 26 1-2. Most people are catching on to the 25 1-2, but I think you can get a 26, either flip years or stay, go back another year.
Yep.
Wide receivers. I mean, we talked about last night, I think, hold on, before I even do that, my man Tomas says, keep up the good content coming, guys. Appreciate the help you guys give yesterday on X. Between Snoog and I's 2 posts yesterday, we had 1.4 million views. They were blowing up. We answered hundreds of questions. Make sure you guys, that's what we're doing in the Discord all the time.
I gained 1,000 followers this week. 1,000 followers.
That's where it's at, man. And that's what we're doing in the Discord is those guys that come in there, we're giving them the advice. We're putting them ahead and we're telling them to go buy Garrett Wilson. So
I can't even keep up in there. My freaking chats are getting blown up every morning. I wake up, I check it first thing. It's like 12 messages and then it's like, it's been awesome.
I finalized my divorce the other day and I wasn't on Twitter I wasn't in the Discord for 8 hours and there were 63 of them. And I'm like, give me a minute, guys. Give me a minute. We got to catch up. And that's what's awesome is like we're chatting in there 24/7. But Garrett Wilson is such a buy right now, Snoop. We saw him Thursday night and we saw Aaron Rodgers.
Christian Gonzalez locked him up.
We talk about he did face 3 really solid corners. He had Snead in week 2. He had Gonzalez in week 3. And teams are playing. They're playing cover 2 on him. They're getting that extra safety help. They're doubling up on him. Lazard has really benefited. Breece Hall has benefited from the inside. But this is it, okay? We told you week 4 was going to be the time Garrett Wilson blows up. It's still on pace for week 4. If you can buy him right now, I'm seeing people. You heard the nicknames. What were some of them that you heard where people are talking?
Garrett McLaurin, Garrett Smith and Jigba. I saw Garrett Johnson, like Deontay Johnson, like if you think he is on any of the talent level of those three guys that were just listed, I'm sorry, but you should pick another sport because this isn't your thing. It's just not your thing. He has 300 plus targets, back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, and he's the only wide receiver in NFL history to catch the ball from 7 different starting quarterbacks in his first 2 seasons.
I think we might be able to wait.
He's as QB proof as you can get. And for those that didn't watch the game and box score watched last night, watch the All-22 film on Garrett Wilson versus Christian Gonzalez and come back with a different opinion on the game. Because that boy, Aaron Rodgers underthrew him across the middle, threw it at his feet when Garrett slid. That would have been a 20-yard catch. The back shoulder fade that he bombed out of bounds when Garrett was open. There was another 20-plus yard back shoulder fade that Garrett just barely didn't get his toe in. That dude should have had like 25 fantasy points. There was a play where it was illegal motion on Garrett Wilson, but he friggin' snapped Gonzalez's ankles and almost caught a 30-yard touchdown pass. It wouldn't have counted anyways, but he's getting open. It's just Aaron Rodgers in his head knows he has the too high and he has the stud corner on him and that no one is going to be able to guard Brees underneath. Lazard, Conklin, all these other guys are wide open and getting open just as equal as Garrett Wilson. So he's just knowing, okay, I got Garrett over there. The focus is on him. I'm one of the best quarterbacks to ever play the game. I am going to absolutely make them regret taking away Garrett Wilson, and he's done that. He did that last night. Vintage Raj performance. He said, quote unquote, when Five and I get on the same page, it's going to be special. I can't wait till he is because you're never going to hear the end of it. It's going to be the most annoying thing by me. You're probably going to end up blocking me. So
he gets Surtain again next week, so we might be talking about week 5 breakout. But honestly,
I don't care
Garrett
who he's
Wilson,
got.
Go buy it. I mean, I'm seeing trades, random 25 first for Garrett Wilson. I still need an early plus. If you can get 2 mids, I would pay 2 mids. I would pay 2 lates plus a second, like of an equivalent type of value. I would kind of go that route. I don't think I'm giving an early first plus, but I would give 2 mids easily. I'm seeing Rashee Rice and Najee Harris for Garrett Wilson. I would take that. I'm seeing random 25 first plus. I see Bryce Young, Devontae Adams, and Ramondre Stevenson. Here's a pile of trash for Garrett Wilson. Go ahead. That's not what we're trying to do here. Garrett Wilson is elite. Be patient. If you're not, hit us up with those trades, what you're thinking. You know what I mean? One guy I want to talk to you about right now, he's the wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I had an offer on the table. I have Chris Godwin, and I'm a contender. And the guy offered me Tank Dell straight. And I'm like, before the season, if you thought about that, that would blow your mind. Right now, man, I think Chris Godwin legitimately looks like a top 12 wide receiver, like rest of season with the way Baker's thrown, with him back in the slant. Are we paying a first yet? Would you pay the 112 if you were 1 wide receiver short for Chris Godwin? We talked about this a little bit last week. And then, or should I smash Tank Dell for Chris Godwin?
I would take Tank and Dynasty all day.
Yeah.
But Chris Godwin's a great buy if you're contending right now because some people still they're just sick of him. Like they're sick of what he's done the past few years with Baker there especially. But I think he has such a high floor, especially slot Chris Godwin. I mean, he's the wide receiver 1 through 2 weeks. That's not going to stick, but top 10, top 12, I think that could happen with injuries and just with situations that change. And if he could just stay, because he's so consistent. If he could just be at 15 to 20 points a game, he'll finish in the top 10 easily.
I think a couple other guys, and I know I want to hit on your thread as well. I said I'm buying on Jamar Chase before this week because this week he is going to absolutely eat against the Commanders. But I'm buying Brandon Ayuk again. We got past the contract situation, and say what you want, but that affected camp. That affected his chemistry and how things have gone. We have Debo out of the lineup. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey's not there. I think you expect, and Kittle's banged up now. So I expect an Ayuk-Purdy connection. I think both of them really bounce back in a big way because Purdy, if you look at what he's done 2 weeks, man, he has been well outside the top 12 in both weeks. And I think they get the Rams this week. Rams secondary is an absolute sieve. He's the quarterback 19. Ayuk is the wide receiver 77. I think both of these guys are buy lows. And I've seen opportunities where I saw Olave and a second for Ayuk and a first. And I mean, I'm buying Ayuk there. If I can get the first, and we say we're buying Olave, but everything is price dependent. If I can get those firsts in those flips, Ayuk is going to be a guy that I think, the rest of the season puts up top 15 wide receiver numbers, especially if Debo stays banged up.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Ayuk's going to be crazy, especially Kittle now, too, with the little hamstring injury coming up out of nowhere. For all you listeners out there, I was going to tweet this yesterday, but I wanted to wait until I got a share in every single league I'm in. I am officially 100% ownership of Eric Salbert, the backup tight end who had 5.5 points in like 10 snaps when Kittle came out. He's the backup tight end. If Kittle, Debo, CMC are all out and it's just the Ayuk show, someone else got to eat. It's gonna be their tight end because Brock loves the tight end. So scoop him up and leagues got Kittle especially, and just play him when Kittle's out and see what happens. He could score a touchdown. He could get 8 to 10 points. Just deep dart throwing tight end premium leagues for you so you don't go out and spend a second on friggin', I don't know, Dalton Schultz or Hunter Henry.
I'm glad you brought up tight end because, before the season started, I mean, I had my redraft in my Dynasty tight end one as Trey McBride, and I feel like he's still up in that area. He's two, but he's the only elite level tight end who's maintained their value going into this, right? Because Laporta has dropped, Kelsey has dropped, Kincaid has dropped, Pitts has fallen off the world. That. The tight end position, Snoog, I mean, you and I were ahead of the curve, and we were out there and we had Brock Bowers on a majority of their teams. Now I'm like, Snoog, everyone wants to buy Brock Bowers. So I'm not saying he's a sell by any stretch of the imagination, because we were saying early in the season, in January, you and I were getting Laporta. We were giving up Laporta in a second for Bowers in a first everywhere. You know what I mean? We were getting to those areas. Now it's the opposite, right? Like Bowers is above everyone. The other day I got an offer of Kincaid in the late first, and I said no. I got to see it. And the tight end landscape has gone from like, oh, wow, this is going to be fantastic, to Kittle's hurt, Njoku's hurt, Ingram's hurt, Ferguson's hurt. Likely was great in week one, but not in week two. Kyle Pitts has been horrible. Travis Kelce has 39 yards. TJ Hawkinson I'm buying because I think when he comes back, he'll be fine. But it's like, dude.
Andrews stayed at home.
This position has gone from, okay, deeper than ever to, I only feel comfortable putting Bowers and McBride out there. Like the rest of these, and I think Kincaid and Laporta and Andrews come back, but I think Pitts and Kelsey are really just dropped off.
I wonder if it feels like it shouldn't. It feels like it should help the tight end position, but I wonder if like the too high safety rate has anything to do with tight end production. I feel like that would help.
I think it's helped Bowers because we were talking about him getting that short ADOT, and it's definitely been working.
Yeah, because he's getting too high safety would definitely help the tight end production, which is weird. I'm gonna try to figure that out after this and try to get some data guys to do crunch the numbers. But yeah, it feels like that would almost help because it's like more cushion, softer zone coverages, safety's back. Like, I don't know. I feel like that should open up everything underneath, especially for check down. Makes sense why all these running backs are catching a million freaking passes. Gibbs, Bijan, Brees, Kamara.
Oh, yeah.
Gibbs has like 11 catches. Achane too, like 15 in the first 2 games. It's like, damn, like these guys are pacing out like 80 plus receptions, all of them. And it makes sense because now it's going to be dink and dunk. All the good quarterbacks and the good offenses with good offensive coordinators are going to adjust, and it's going to be dink and dunk. Dink and dunk, dink and dunk, dink and dunk, play action, run, dink and dunk. And they're going to drive down the field on these 12-play scoring drives. It's not ruining football. It is for the teams that stink with no offensive coordinators. This is where the good coaching staffs are going to thrive, and this is where teams are going to separate themselves.
And if you and I are noticing that, then obviously there's going to be some copycats, and I think eventually that changes things up quite a bit. I mean, the trades that I'm seeing, would you rather have Bowers or McBride in a second?
Bowers.
Yeah, I agree. Bowers or Pollard in a mid-first.
The only reason I say Bowers versus McBride in a second is because Bowers has such a higher pedigree that if he does good all year, he's going to be ridiculously valued.
100%. But these trades don't make sense.
I'm taking Bowers over, I'm taking Bowers over Pollard in a first.
What about Brees Hall or Bowers in a 25 first?
If it's like 0.75 or higher tight end premium, Bowers, but I'm taking Brees if not.
Where does Brock Bowers, let's say he stays on this pace. Let's say he finishes as a top 3 tight end. Let's say he has a Laporta type rookie season, like you and I had anticipated.
He's a second round starter pick.
That's what I'm questioning is like, where does it go? I think if it's
0.75, mid to early second round starter pick.
Mid to early. If it's 0.75, I was thinking end of the second, but you're thinking because we have not seen Gronk back in the day was a late first but it was in one quarterback leagues when we didn't have super flex like
was
this.
Always a first, right?
No. Well, I think at a certain point there, but I was like, once we got into super flex becoming more dominant, I didn't pay attention to one quarterback. So probably in a one quarterback.
Maybe, you're right.
Your time?
Yeah, Bowers is probably more like a second round starter pick. He was a fourth pick though.
A lot of people were really critical of when I was saying I'm taking Bowers over Odunze. Brock in a second or Odunze in a first. And you're gonna say Brock, but where's that first have to be to make it Odunze? 4?
Top 5.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I said before the season, I had money on the Rams and the Colts to draft Brock Bowers. And to me, I'm like, okay, he gets in the hands of Shane Steichen or he gets in the hands of Sean McVay, someone that can actually use him properly. And I said, if he did that, he's my locked 1-4. I don't care what quarterback went where. Yeah. He was gonna be right there with Neighbors Marv. I hated the Raiders situation. And I was like, why? I was so mad because Brock Bowers is one of my favorite players in this class. It just felt gross. No quarterback, just gross. Like young coaching staff. And then like the more and more I think about it, I'm like, he's just so damn good. They took him so high. They have to use him. They have to.
Pierce is utilizing him. Pierce is a lot smarter than people give him credit for. I think he is using him properly. Yeah. We talked about how Minshew was going to feed him because his ADOT was so low.
He's literally, remember I said, I'm going to find this and clip it. He's literally faster, better Michael Pittman. That's what Bowers is. Faster, better Michael Pittman. More agile.
Don't talk about Michael Pittman.
We
can't do that on the show, but we're really trying to let you guys know there's a right time to buy and there's a wrong time to buy. If you're trying to buy Bowers now, he's a stud, so you can buy high, but when these guys hit, you really got to keep your expectations there. I mean, that's why Snoog and I are always trying to address, you know what? I'm going to buy Kincaid because he's going to be fine. I'm going to buy Garrett Wilson because he's going to be fine. Amon-Ra St. Brown has had a slow start. Amon-Ra St. Brown and Olave are having slow starts because Shaheed and Jameson are there they're catching the deep balls, the opposite of what the rest of the league is doing. But once that happens, these guys are going to be absolutely fine. Dak Prescott's going to be fine. Ayuk's going to be a buy low type opportunity. If you can go out there and buy injury opportunities like AJ Brown, like Christian McCaffrey, not as much. I say if you're buying Christian McCaffrey, I don't want to pay more than 70% of market value just because of the risk. Go out there and buy Kenneth Walker. Go out there and buy Isaiah Pacheco. Buy these guys at a discount because when you're rebuilding, there's such a quick ROI, right? You buy the guy that's injured, he comes back, you sell him for more than what you paid for. It's so easy. That's why Dynasty is cyclical, but it's also very easy to predict. So we just wanted to give you some opportunities on some buy lows. We wanted to tell you, where we're buying guys, how we're buying guys. DJ Moore jersey, there it is again. He's got to be on that horizon soon. Caleb Williams is a low-key buy because he is better than what this is, but honestly, only on a fraction of the cost. We're not still paying first-round startup value. We're paying considerably less on there. I'm just excited because this is the time, if you listen to this show, if you're in our Discord, you are going to get nuggets that are going to make you better than everybody else in the league. And I don't mean that as like trying to brag or anything like that, but look at the track record. Look at what we've been able to do with trades. You're paying $5 a month just to be like, Dad, what do you think of this trade? And it's worth it, Snoog, because if we go and we help you, like there was one where we were talking about a guy was going to do a player in a second. And I said, throw him DeAndre Swift and ask for a first. And he got it. And it's like, dude, for $5, you just got an extra first round pick next year. You know what I mean? Like I would pay $5 for any first round pick next year. Like you make these trades where we're just giving you a little bit of extra advice, a little bit of help where it's like, hold on, don't quite do that yet. Don't panic. Here's my team, and I think Snoog, that's what I love most about the Discord is guys are like, they come up with a trade and I'm like, hold on, let's think about it a little bit further. And then they win their trade.
Yep. Absolutely agree. That Discord, man, it's been crazy fun to keep up with. I mean, every time I check, I got like 10 plus messages. So it's like, and I got guys in there answering questions for me before I even get to it. So that's what you're getting as well. You're getting other advice. That's the one valuable piece that people don't understand. when you ask for trade advice, you're probably asking 10 other people. You're not just coming to me, and I know that. You're not just coming to Dad. You're getting that from us. You're getting my advice, Dad advice. I put a bunch of sharp players in there that I know that I'm good friends with from Sleeper, just leagues, Twitter, whatever. I just threw them in there, and I just said, here, go moderate, go answer questions for me. And they do that.
Since 8 a.m. this morning, both and Discord only keeps track of 25 plus, but in both the trade talk and the fantasy football talk, which are two open forums, there have been 25 plus messages in the last, and I don't even know how many it is, but guys are just talking, and it's like people want to be part of that community. They want to talk shop. I got to kick people out of the chat with Dad Room because they're trying to answer all my questions too. I'm like, yo, let me do my job. This is what I'm here for, to give that extra advice. You know what I mean? But it's like, it's just fun. It's fun. Make sure you guys check that out. It's patreon.com/smashaccept. If you don't like it, we'll give you your money back. Honestly, it's the best deal out there. Thanks again for tuning in. Make sure you hit that smash accept subscribe button and enjoy the process.